we're back with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Dawn and Kevin. Kevin, how are you?
Mr. Henniger, I'm good. How are you doing?
I love this studio we're in, buddy.
It's a great day, isn't it?
I know.
Now it's a cool studio, but it's cool in here too. It's nice and cool.
We're going to need that later this summer.
Yeah,
the summer's
Glad
not
I
that
brought my
far away.
jacket.
You look good though, man. So you look good, and so far so good in here. But Skyler Badenoch is our guest today. I'm excited to talk about him. He's the CEO of Hope for Haiti.
That's right.
Fascinating organization and has done so much good stuff. We're going to get into that and find out more about what you're all up to. You're also a big-time supporter of causes in Scottsdale. You serve on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Scottsdale, which is really cool. And you're a graduate like Kevin and I of Scottsdale leadership.
Right.
So you got Scottsdale and Haiti in your blood, right?
I do.
That's awesome.
We can do both.
Yeah, you can do both, and you're gonna tell us how that works in just a second. So Hope for Haiti is an organization that's dedicated to improving the quality of life for the Haitian people, particularly women and children. That includes reducing poverty, focusing on education, healthcare, water, infrastructure, and the economy. Pretty much all the basic services that a country needs, huh?
That's right.
Now, before we get too much into Hope for Haiti, tell us about you. What's your background? You're a Scottsdale native, is that right?
That's right. So well, first of all, Kevin and Dawn, thank you so much for having me on today, and it's good to connect with a couple of fellow Scottsdale leadership grads. And that's right. I was born and raised right here in Scottsdale, not too far from where we're doing this podcast. So I went to Kiva Elementary, went to Mojave, went to Saguaro, graduated, and went to University of Arizona. And right out of the University of Arizona, I joined the Peace Corps. And I served for 2 years in West Africa and the Ivory Coast.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And so that's really what got my start in the career path of international development.
Yeah,
was,
right.
Spending 2 years in a very remote village in West Africa with no running water, no electricity, and we spoke a native language called Kulango.
Kulango.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like that got me going in international development. I went to graduate school at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Right there, okay.
Yep. And then right out of grad school, I got an amazing job with an organization named Build On, building schools, primary schools in developing countries all around the world, in Haiti, Nicaragua, Senegal, Mali, Malawi, Burkina Faso, and Nepal. Wow. And so I did that for like 10 years, 5 years on the management side. So I was setting up programs to build schools. I'd go into rural villages and help moms and dads build schools where there really virtually weren't any schools suitable for learning. And then 5 years on the fundraising side. And after 10 years at Build On, I got a phone call from Hope for Haiti, the organization I work with now. And they asked me if I'd join them as their CEO. And so I took a look at their board and their donor base, and it was really impressive. And Haiti is a place that had a lot of experience, very close to my heart. And I said yes, and it's been 8 years since I said yes, and it's been an amazing journey for me.
Why do I feel a little smaller right now or hearing this experience?
No kidding, right?
Huh?
So I hate to even ask a question this early on because I know there's a lot of content that we have to go over in a short period of time, but what made you want to join the Peace Corps while you're in college, or was that seed planted earlier?
It's a great question, and this is why I think mentorship is so important at every single age. I mean, I think we can have mentors at every age, but when I was an 18-year-old, I had a mentor who I would meet with every single day for lunch. Every single Friday for lunch, and we would sit down and talk about sports and politics and service and relationships and movies. She was a big movie buff. And one day she said, there's something called the Peace Corps you might be interested in. And so I looked it up, and this was right before I was going over to the University of Arizona to become a freshman. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to try it. And so I did.
Really? So you knew all through college.
All through college.
When you graduated, you were right in the Peace Corps.
Exactly. That was my goal. That was my dream. And so, we as soon as I graduated, made it happen. One of the best parts of the story is I convinced my college roommate to do it too.
Really?
And so we didn't go to the same place, but we went to West Africa together. Yeah. And we were like 2,000 miles apart, but we were pen pals.
Before we get into Haiti, you got to tell me a little bit about what West Africa was like, because you're over there as a recent college grad, you're young, and suddenly you're in a third world country in West Africa making things happen.
Yeah, and really the interesting part about it for me when I reflect on it was that it was really the first time, besides going to Mexico for like spring break, was the first time I ever left the country. Mm-hmm. And so I'd never experienced what poverty was like. I never experienced what it was like for a mom who couldn't find health care for her baby. And that was my neighbor, my first day in the Peace Corps, when I moved to the village where I was living for 2 years. She was struggling with the health of her baby, and I listened to it every night. and it changed. I hear it. I can still
to this
yes,
day?
I hear it.
Yeah.
I think about it,
No kidding.
and it's one of the reasons that sort of drove me into this line of work. But it was also beautiful. Like poverty is so multidimensional, and we think of people as like, people may not have the type of money that we have here, or opportunity, but there are other things that bring value to people's lives, like culture and family and land and even education. And so I also started seeing the world through a different lens of like, it's not just about have money or not have money. It's have values, have culture, have family, have education. There are things that people who are living in poverty have. And so I stopped really thinking of people as like people who have nothing.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist
Yeah.
in this world. We all have something.
Everybody's got something.
That's right.
We're all human
That's
beings.
right. Exactly.
Same human family.
And when you think about it the other way, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
And so that time in the Peace Corps really allowed me the opportunity to learn and develop that worldview. It also helped me with a sense of humility because, as you can imagine, I showed up, recent college graduate, fraternity president down at the University of Arizona, and I showed up and I took three months of training on how to learn French, and I spoke a little French when I came into this community in this village. But guess what? Nobody spoke French, so I had to learn. Yeah, I had to learn a different language, Kulago.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
so, how humbling is that when the only people I could really communicate were the kids, and so the kids taught me how to speak the language, and some elders, but
Yeah.
A
but
few extra
really
words in
it
there
was
probably,
like
right? Yeah.
it was a learning process and super humbling. But then once I got it, it opened up all these amazing opportunities for relationships and the ability to make somebody laugh in a different language, and just understanding humor and culture, and even just cultural. There's cultural protocol in almost every village in West Africa, so I got to learn that and understand the meaning and the significance behind the protocol of if you're a visitor or if you're traveling from a long distance, and what happens when you arrive in a remote West African village, how they treat you. And so all of those things I carry with me even today. And it was such a great learning opportunity for me.
So amazing. I think about the worldview you have and the world values that you have, Kevin.
Right.
In this day and age, we need more of that from all corners of life. It's
Absolutely.
it's crazy how much we get insulated and thinking we're the only thing, and if it's not our way, it's no way.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works.
It sure isn't. I think the more you see the outside world, outside of your, our bubble, the more perspective you're able to gain, and then bring that home. And I think that's one of the best parts about the Peace Corps is the third goal is to bring it home and use what you've learned to be a productive member of your community wherever it is you land.
And what were living conditions like there when you were there? Were you sleeping on a cot, or what were you doing?
Well, so I was on a mattress under a mosquito net.
All right.
And I have tons of stories about the things that I encountered along the way, including a green mamba snake on my first week.
That's not what you want to run into,
No,
is it?
it was not. It was not. I got a great picture of it. And
Yeah.
I also have, unfortunately, its blood on my journal because somebody killed it.
Oh.
But the conditions, it was a mattress under a mosquito net in a 2-bedroom home, cement. It was a cement block home, and no running water, no electricity. So I had a yellow lamp that I used every night to write my journal, to write about my experiences. I had a latrine, and what was beautiful at the end was that I had a garden, and it was a pretty big garden. And I used it to do a nutrition and garden project where we grew I have a picture I was just looking at it the other day, corn and cabbage and tomatoes and eggplants and peanuts and all sorts of things that we grew as part of a nutrition program with some of the kids in the village. And so it was a beautiful place. Religion, it was about 2/3 Islam and then Catholic. And everybody got along. Everybody was,
right. It
congenial.
can happen.
It can happen.
It is possible for sure.
Totally. And
Yeah.
they were. It was a beautiful community and rural as you can get. I mean, just when the sun went down, the lights went off, and the stars were so bright, and it was very peaceful. Probably went to bed earlier than I ever went to bed in my
I
life.
bet.
But also woke up pretty early those days.
Yeah.
What are a couple other stories from that time there that you wanted to share?
Well, one of the things that I loved about the Peace Corps was that they're kind of hands off, and so they were like, okay, this is your village, this is your assignment, and here's your Trek bicycle, and you can figure out your way. You share your knowledge, learn about the culture, and bring it home. That's really what the three goals are. And so I had this bicycle that I would ride around the countryside. And there were other volunteers, but they were pretty far, 20, 30 miles away.
Oh, geez.
And so oftentimes we would get on the bike and, you're feeling maybe a little bit lonely or isolated. You'd ride to your friend's house. And what I loved about that, once I learned the language, was imagine, riding in these rural communities. And maybe some folks have never seen somebody from the United States before. Mm-hmm. And I'd roll in on my Trek bicycle and I'd say, "What's up?" in the local language. Right. And I'd stop and I'd grab some water. And people were like, "Huh, this guy's different, Right. And this guy's a little different. Like, he knows the customs and the language, and he knows how to say it in the respectful way and honor the elders and all of those things." And so we had a time where I'll never forget this. I rode my bike a friend of mine showed up with his bike, and then we rode to the next volunteers village. And we spent the night. Then we rode to the next volunteers village, and we spent the night. Then we rode the next and I think we rode like probably 200 miles. But by the time we were like this pack of like 9 volunteers on Trek bicycles, biking through the Ivorian countryside, all speaking the local language, and those are some memorable times. Those experiences, but more importantly, the people. I mean, what's interesting is. The family that was really kind of took me in and was my host family. We ate dinner every night. I knew their kids. They would teach me about like local language and customs. They teach me the language. The food was good, but sometimes exotic. Like, I remember a couple times I'm like, "What's this?" And they're like, "Porcupine." And I'm
porcupine.
Like, porcupine, or
tastes like chicken.
What's
right?
this? And they're like, and sometimes it was like, "This is chicken," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course." And in those days, it was really the people there who I developed a fondness with. And what I love about it now is I'm Facebook friends, social media connections with a lot of the kids.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Because everybody grew up and technology happened and cell phones happened, and so now every once in a while I'll get a phone call from the Ivory Coast. And it's Kofi, calling to see what's up and see how
That's
everything's
super
going.
So technology has arrived even to places like that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and now I think cell phones are ubiquitous, and it's changed. It certainly has changed the world because we're so much more interconnected than we were even 20, 30, 40 years ago because of that, because of the cell phone technology. They're everywhere.
That's good to know. There's digital divides and digital deserts all over the place. It's just good to know that there's service everywhere too, in places you might not expect it. Which is really cool. So let's talk a little bit about Hope for Haiti. Describe the mission for them, what kind of work you do, and how that works from you here in Phoenix and Scottsdale.
Good question.
And Haiti, with all the work you're doing in Haiti, that's a big gap.
It is a really big gap, and you explained it perfectly. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of Haitian people, particularly women and children, and so we do just that. We do that by empowering local leaders in Haiti, doctors, nurses, educators, administrators. These are my colleagues. And we have right now about 115 full-time Haitian staff. So we employ doctors, we employ nurses, we have a logistics team, we have an education team, an economy team, and then a bunch of support staff. And so my job here at Hope for Haiti is to resource and empower my colleagues in Haiti. Who are doing amazing work in the face of some tremendous challenges.
Yeah.
And so if you follow the news in Haiti, you'll know that it is plagued by natural disaster. It has been severely impacted by disastrous foreign policy, by corruption, and currently gang violence has just crippled the country. Mm-hmm. And so it makes the work incredibly challenging, but not challenging enough that we can't overcome those challenges. And so oftentimes what we're doing is navigating. How do we overcome these challenges? And, for instance, one of the things that we do as an organization for the last 4 years is our medical team has made 100,000 medical consultations to children, parents, and grandparents in southern Haiti, people who come into our infirmary seeking access to care. Wow. And they receive it. And it's not just, it's diabetes, hypertension, asthma, wound care, moms seeking care for their kids, nutritional support. I was in Haiti 3 weeks ago, and there was a woman who came in who just had her leg amputated. She had a diabetic wound, and oftentimes that's a result. Mm-hmm. And in our wound care clinic, that's the one to go to if you're in the city where we work. So she comes in every day and gets her wound looked at to make sure it's progressing. Mm-hmm. So those types of things are just a lifeline to people who are seeking access to care, especially when there's a huge shortage of healthcare, access to healthcare in Haiti. Yeah. So there's a shortage of care. There's also a shortage of medication. And so this is a big part of what we do, is that we have donors here in the United States who who donate to Hope for Haiti high value medication. It's diabetes meds, hypertension meds, asthma medication, antibiotics, children's vitamins, prenatal vitamins, all those things. Last year, the tune of $50 million.
What?
Yeah, $50 million donated in the value of medication to Hope for Haiti.
And that's just the medical
that's exactly
contributions.
Right. That's the medical.
That's not your total budget or...
No, that's not the we call it gift in kind, but that's the medication that gets donated to us. So we take that, and guess where it goes? It goes to Port-au-Prince, one of the most dangerous and very complex cities in the world right now.
Yeah.
And there's gang activity everywhere. And so our job is to figure out, how do we get that medication from Port-au-Prince, circumventing the gangs in the very challenging situation that exists there, into the southern part of Haiti where our office is and where our infirmary is, and then into the hands of people who need it.
Yeah.
And so that's the complexity of it.
How do you do that?
We do it. And so we have a network. First of all, it's all about team. And so, we do it. When I say we, that's not me. Like that's not me. I have amazing colleagues who are just incredibly good at their jobs. And when they have to hack a problem, they'll hack it, And so right now we have things that go into Port-au-Prince, high value medication, and we got to put them on a barge. And the barge put them on the barge, and we sail it around. We sail it around the gangs, and then we
stay out of their sight.
We stay out of their sight, and then we truck it into the southern part of the country. So it's logistically very challenging, not as cheap as it used to be. So we got to fundraise on the back end of it, or on the front end, or all ends of it, and then figure out the logistics. Well, the logistics for us, once we get it into the southern part of the country where our office is and where our infirmary is, then we feel pretty confident we can do the good work with the meds we have. Especially since we have every single day showing up at our clinic 200 or 300 people, who are seeking access to care, and they're not just coming from they're not coming from down the street. Like when I was there 3 weeks ago, I met a guy. I speak Creole, the local language Creole, Haitian Creole, and I was like, "Hey, where'd you come from?" He's like, "I came from Jeremy." I'm like, "That's 3 hours away," and he's like, "Yeah, but I heard you guys have the good medication," and I was like, "Well, that's true." And so he came from 3 hours away just to see our doctors and get treated and get access to those meds. Wow. And so, we're continuing to be a lifeline for the communities in Haiti. And, one thing I keep thinking about is there's a movement right now. And there's this movement that people always ask me, and they're like, well, why not do work here? Because there's so much to be done here. And I've never really thought of it like that. I've always we can do both. Mm-hmm. And if we're thinking about America first, to me, in my mind, as an American, I'm like, there's nothing more American than reaching your hand down and helping other people up, regardless of where they're at, here and there. And because we have so much abundance, so much opportunity, I'm like, we can do both. And so to me, that's America first, is helping out people wherever we can.
Love that definition.
And so I hope people will start thinking that way, and I know that some people do, because we receive donations every year that blow our minds in terms of generosity.
Really, I bet.
We've had incredible supporters.
Is it harder now to raise money in this climate than it was just a couple of years ago, based on what's going on?
In my 20 years of being in the nonprofit world, my 8 years of being the CEO of Hope for Haiti is the hardest environment to raise money.
I bet
for Haiti. And it's a combination of a lot of things. Yeah. But if I were to put three on the map, I'd say it's this narrative about let's not help our neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also, Haiti's very challenging right now, and so some people are like, the narrative. If you read, you can Google Haiti, and in the news is going to be all bad. Mm-hmm. If you saw my Instagram feed, or you saw my trip, you'd be like, this guy went to an amazing trip and he had a great great experience, and it's not all bad, and it's not. But we're fighting against that constant narrative that nothing can be done and it's hopeless, and we just don't. We fundamentally reject that, and so that's hard. The economy, I will tell you, a lot of our donors donate stock. Mm-hmm. And so if the stock market's down, it's not always a good year for us.
Good, right.
And so we're seeing a little bit of that right now with the uncertainty in the economy. But I'm also I'm of the opinion that we will be okay because we've figured out how to do it this far. We've gone through earthquakes and hurricanes and natural disasters and COVID and a lot of other stuff in between, and we've still figured out a way to make it happen. So it to me, I just don't envision us not being able to continue.
Yeah, and the government's unstable too, right?
That's right. Oh yeah.
Have the USAID cutbacks affected you at all?
So we get about 8% of our funding from USAID,
Okay.
And so that is certainly been a challenge for us. We have had some donors that just said, "Look, I think we've run our course," and that's natural. And so our job is to keep it going and find those new donors who will be, interested in stepping up and continuing the work that we do.
I work for the Carter Center.
Oh yeah, in Atlanta.
And the USAID cutbacks have taken about a 12% chunk out of the Carter Center budget.
Yep.
Which people don't realize. And so, there's been a lot of fallout with some cutbacks that people don't really know how far down it's gone.
Yeah.
And how painful it can be in some areas. So I'm glad you guys are still diversified enough where 8% is not going to kill you.
Well, we were diversified, and we also, and we've been maintaining the best practices for the last decade in terms of making sure you have reserves for the rainy day.
Yeah.
And guess what? It might be today.
Yeah.
It might be this year.
Could be.
And so
Next
we're
3 years.
we're
maybe.
ready to. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And so we need to be able to. We're positioned. Now we don't want that to happen, but if it does, we're positioned because we are fiscally conservative. I would say we're probably one of the best governed organizations out there in terms of our adherence to governance, accountability, and transparency.
I'll bet you're a lot bigger than people realize. When you talk about your staff, you have 150 people full-time working for you.
Yeah.
I think you're probably a lot bigger than people would realize, right?
I think so. Yeah. We've had some years where just the growth was exponential, and it reminded me of this one truth that I think is that applies to us, which is given the resources, we can do the work. And I always tell our team like that if we have the money, we can do really amazing things. And we did, because we've had it. We've built schools, we've built healthcare facilities, we've provided healthcare for hundreds of thousands of people. We brought in more than $100 million worth of medication over the last 4 years.
That's amazing.
So that's a sign that given the resources, we can do the work. And that's rewarding to see it, because then the formula is so simple. It's resource and power, have good governance, transparency, and accountability, and the magic happens.
Keep it simple like that. It can work, right? You guys do a lot of work on the water infrastructure too, right?
We do. We have a really good partnership with Rotary International. I'm a Rotarian here in Scottsdale.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Scottsdale Rotary?
Yep,
okay.
Scottsdale Rotary.
Is that the one at McCormick Ranch? Or?
Exactly.
There's Sunrise in Scottsdale.
We're not Sunrise. We're the one we meet in the afternoons.
I've actually given speeches to this.
You guys are invited. You can be my guest for lunch. It's a pretty good crew. It's a great group of I'd say, older statesmen in Scottsdale.
Yeah, Jim Bruder's part of that.
He's there.
Right?
Yep,
Yeah,
he shows up,
yeah.
and I really have found value in being part of Rotary Scottsdale because it's a great way to put your finger on the pulse of what's going on here in the business community. They're service minded, which I am too, and so I've found a lot of value in being part of that organization as well.
So they're helping with Hope for Haiti?
Yeah, we do. We were their first implementer for Hand Wash, which is Rotary's signature water sanitation and hygiene initiative in Haiti, and so they help raise the money, but they need somebody to implement. That's where we come in. We have boots on the ground, so we helped provide water sanitation, hygiene for people in rural areas by helping with water filtration systems, public health. We even repaired some wells and built some sanitation facilities as well.
How much is fundraising a part of your job?
Like so much, like all the time.
Every day, all the time.
Kevin just passed me in the hallway, and I was on the phone talking about fundraising. Yeah, talking about fundraising. So it's a lot, but I think what helps me, Don, is I believe in the work, and I believe and so that helps, and so. If I didn't, I don't think I would be out there.
You have passion for what you do.
And I went to Haiti, so now I can come back with the story of how I just climbed a mountain with my colleagues and school kids and our partners, and literally climbed a mountain for 2.5 hours to get up to this school, and that inspired me. So I get to tell our donors that and share those stories and share the photos. So a lot of my work is fundraising, is trying to figure out how we can align the resources so the work can get done. But I don't mind it, and if you don't mind it, that means you're used to hearing no, and you're used to hearing people say, you know what, we're moving on. But you're also used to hearing people saying, I see your vision, I see the work you're doing, and it's a yes. And so that feels pretty empowering, especially in a place as challenging to work and raise money as Haiti.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So how often do you go to Haiti? You said you went 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How often do you go? How long are you there when you go?
For the last 8 years, I've been going about 4 to 5 times a year.
Okay.
And so I'll go for 7 days to 10 days. There was an earthquake in 2021, really bad earthquake.
Yeah.
And it was a tough time for our organization because it wasn't like the 2010 earthquake, which was huge. I was actually there for that. I flew down the day before.
Wow.
I was there for it. Yeah, I flew down the day before and ended up as a first responder.
What was that experience like?
You can't unforget it.
No.
Yeah, it's with me every day.
I'll bet. Yeah.
There was 300,000 people died,
Oh, gosh,
250,000 people wounded.
Right.
So and we were intimately involved. Intimately. This 2021, when the earthquake happened, it was in our backyard though. It was in the south, and our buildings were compromised. We had 2 of our buildings like totally destroyed.
Really?
We had partners. I had friends who lost their homes. I had friends who lost their lives. It was pretty intense, and I'll never forget. It was actually a very cool story. I was here in Scottsdale, so I get the call. It's a Saturday morning, and by Sunday, my team had worked around the clock. Nobody slept, and we came up with a plan. And we were like, we have a plan. It's a $5 million plan that we're going to use to help people recover, rebuild. And so I said, well, that's great. We got a plan. And it's a $5 million plan. The problem is we don't have $5 million. Yeah. That was the problem. And I'll never forget this. Probably one of the best gifts I've ever received. Bob and Renee Parsons called me up, and they said, we're going to give you $1 million to help people, and they gave us $1 million.
No kidding.
And that changed our ability to help people in their darkest days. And I'll never in my life I'll never forget that. It was something else, and my heart just went out to them for their generosity.
Absolutely.
It was amazing.
That is so cool.
And so when I showed up in Haiti, I'm like, we got $1 million to do good work, and our team was fired up, and they were victims of the disaster too. So having the resources to help their community members was a game changer, and that just helped us. It helped us raise even more money because now we had some validity behind what we were doing, and people saw that, and they're like, it snowballed, and it was probably one of the best relief efforts I've ever been a part of.
Any personal stories that you treasure that are? I'm sure you have many, but is there any that stick out that you really stay in your soul all the time?
Yeah, there's so many, and I'll tell you one of my first experiences in Haiti. I was building schools, and I showed up in this community, and the whole idea behind building the school was you got to help. Everybody pitches in, and the parents are digging holes. The grandparents are mixing cement. Like, it's a community effort to build a school because we know education is the backbone of development. And it's one of our first communities in Haiti, and school had just let out. And this school that was there had like no walls, dirt floors, very leaky roof. And so we were helping this community build its first real school block. And there was this mom there who was just absolutely inspiring, and she'd been digging all day, and it's super hot and everybody's sweating. And I'm like, wow, like, what's your deal? And she's like, well, my kids go to school here, and I want to play a role and do my part. And so, it just reminded me that parents really care. Later that day, there was a young woman, school child, who was also working on the work site. At that point, we were like, this is a parent activity, not a kid activity. So I was like, thank you for trying, for helping, but we ask that just adults work on the work site. And she's like, well, my mom couldn't work this afternoon, so I wanted to do our part. I'm like, who's your mom? Turns out her mom was the woman who was working in the morning. Yeah. So I became pretty good friends with them over the years. And so this was in 2007. And in 17, I went back to Haiti as Hope for Haiti's CEO, and I went back to that school, and I walked into the high school class, first graduating class of high school, and there she was sitting in the front. And so
Is that right?
her name is,
That's
her name was
awesome.
Janice. I'll never forget her. She was really
Yeah.
inspiring. But the idea was that even when we started building that first school, there was no option to go to 6th grade. And so that community really worked hard to build their school system up so they can have a high school. Right. And there she was. She graduated. She went to high school. She went on to college. She now has children. And what we know about that is that mothers of educated children have much better economic and social indicators across the board.
Makes sense.
And so I always think of Janice when I think of the importance of the work we do. There's a lot of stories like that.
I can only imagine.
People who inspire you with their perseverance and their curiosity. And I have this I don't know if it's a mantra or a saying, but it's intelligence and ability are equally distributed throughout the world, but opportunity is not. And so smart people everywhere. Some might say smarter than me everywhere, but the opportunity is different, right? So we've been afforded some pretty amazing opportunity in our lives.
Oh, wow.
And so when you can be a little bit of a bridge to that opportunity gap, it feels meaningful.
Another great example of people in Scottsdale making a difference across the globe.
I was
Isn't it
thinking the
amazing?
same thing. Well, I'm just here thinking about, I'm remembering last week at Joe Garagiola Jr. on, talking about how the Diamondbacks set up a school.
Education deal.
Right, and the Dominican Republic, and the ball players who are not able to make it to the big leagues are still able to go back to that school and get their education, despite the fact that baseball's out of their future. And here we have Skyler talking about what they're doing for the population of Haiti. There's a strong connection between Scottsdale, Arizona, and the Caribbean and what we're doing.
That's so
amazing.
interesting. Yeah.
It makes me proud.
It does.
To be a Scottsdale resident when we have residents like Skyler here doing the work that he's doing.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing. I'm just so glad we were able to get you on the air today and tell your story a little bit. Maybe we can get some people out there interested in supporting the cause too. You never know.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And one thing I'll just add that I feel like I'm bringing a lot of this service to what I'm also doing here in Scottsdale, and I'm a very proud member of the board of directors at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah,
The work they do, I get to see it, intimately as a board member and also as a parent whose kids go there. And I'll tell you, it is a lifeline for a lot of parents right here in Scottsdale. They're about to break ground on a new branch at Tonalea. We're going to go to the groundbreaking. I don't know if you guys are available. You should come to the groundbreaking.
Maybe we will.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, this organization, what they do for kids.
Sure
and
is.
I was a club kid growing up.
Yeah.
Played basketball at Osborne.
Did you?
you really?
Yeah. I may have averaged 24 points a game, but nobody can fact check that. So.
Just stick with the story. Stick with the story. It's all right. Yeah.
I peaked when I was sixth grade. Yeah.
We're good friends with Paul Baker. I think he's he's your new president, right?
I love Paul. Yeah, he's a board chair.
Great chair.
He's a leader. He's the guy that convinced me to join the board.
Oh,
Is he really?
That's fantastic.
He was a Scottsdale leadership class member of mine.
Yeah.
He's an icon.
Yep, for sure. Skyler, fascinating conversation today. Really appreciate you spending time with us, but more importantly, appreciate the work you're doing.
Well, I appreciate both.
You're making a difference in the world, man.
Helping shine a light on the work and for what you guys do too in the community.
We're all working for positive outcomes.
Absolutely.
Whether it's here in Scottsdale or whether it's in Haiti.
That's right.
Or anywhere else around the world. You never know. But
anywhere we can.
Wherever we can make a difference, we should. And we can and we should.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Skyler, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for listening. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.